We haven't done a COVID Fast Five in a long time, Jennifer, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a COVID Fast Five and we're going to be fast about it. You can go ahead and start with story number one.
Oh boy. So, seven variants of COVID 19 have now been identified in the United States. All seven have a similar mutation to their protein spikes, including B117, the UK variant, and B11351, the South African variant, and Q677P, a US variant. The UK variant and South African variants have also mutated, creating two versions, and finally, the P1 variant was identified in South America. The one creating the most concern is B1351, the South African variant, and its cousin B1351P1. South Africa stopped using the AstraZeneca vaccine after concluding it wasn't effective enough, and it was also identified to be resistant to therapies. There is growing concern that current vaccines will have to be updated in an ongoing struggle to stop COVID spread. Scientists believe that B117, the UK variant, will be the dominant US strain by the end of March, and that's not that far away.
No, it's not. Yay, us. Jennifer, I think it's a piece of paper. Oh, wow. That was a great throw. I think it's a piece of paper at the camera lens. I'm starting, and we don't have a lot of time to unpack this.
Yeah.
I will never be an anti-masker because I believe in science and masks friggin' work. And if you don't think masks are work, if you ever have to see my wife in the surgery at the hospital, I'm sure you're probably pretty freaking happy that she wears a mask when you're cut open. Yes. So mask work. But Jennifer, I'm drifting into this camp of we're going to have to figure out how to live with COVID, and endless partial shutdowns aren't the answer. Yep. Unless we fundamentally change how society operates and put a bigger safety net under people that are going to fall through the cracks. And the people that fall through the cracks, they don't care about your friggin' politics, left or right. People from both sides are on the brink. Anyway, that's where my stat is at. Yeah. Malcontents, let us know what you think about that in the comments. I'm sure you got opinions on it, and I'm sure my opinion is controversial. With that, I'm going to move to story number two. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is under increasing fire for not accurately reporting COVID infection rates and deaths in New York nursing homes. And despite knowing the severity of the problem, moving additional facilities and people into impacted facilities. The New York Post broke this story. Today, Governor Cuomo acknowledged if he could rewind the tape when it came to releasing requested nursing home data, his administration would have gotten it out sooner. Recently, state lawmakers are calling for investigations, stripping the governor of his emergency powers, and even calling for his resignation from a few Republicans as new details have emerged. I find it a bit ironic, Jennifer, position from them as the overwhelming data to the contrary on the severity of COVID and the Republican Party's view on the severity of COVID, or how it's no big friggin' deal, and also their view on try to overthrow the U.S. government.
Yeah.
But somehow this is worse.
Yeah. So wasn't it like one of the, Republican, organizations in New York that had a big Christmas party where they were all doing a conga line unmasked and had a super spreader event? So it seems a little bit, ironic that they're calling for his resignation when, they're out there doing the conga unmasked during the holidays and spreading it around like it's, I don't know, something.
You've attached this into the issues of the elites, and I know that Bill Gates has done so much in the space, but I got to tell you, I kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit when I saw his 24-year-old daughter going, "I'm getting my first COVID shot."
Yes.
Do better.
Yeah. So I was having this conversation with my son earlier about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and the hoarding of wealth and, rich people, because he's like, oh, Tesla's great and Elon Musk. And I was like, no, he's 14. So don't be angry at him. He doesn't quite understand. But we were actually having this conversation earlier. So it's interesting that you brought that up. All right. So moving on to story number three.
Hold on story number three, because I want to do a shout out to one of the comments that came here. Kimberly, I see your comment. The person has never emailed me. If you could ping her again, she has not emailed us. We would love to interview her, but we haven't heard from her. And again, because of my involvement and multiple connections in the medical community, I could not in good conscience reach out to her. So Kimberly, if you can reach out to her, she has to make the initial contact. Jennifer, with that, I'll give it back over to you.
So U.S. hospitalization for COVID are down to 65,000, the lowest level since November 11th, 2020, according to the COVID Tracking Project website. The website reports that 13,799 patients are in ICU, and of those, 4,454 are on ventilators. New tests are down in the last week, in part to severe weather that has swept the country, closing test clinics from coast to coast. Deaths remain, however, at about 3,000 a day, 7-day moving average, but progress is being made. And for now, it appears concerns of a Christmas and New Year's Eve spike were unfounded.
See, this is one where I like to be wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong on this one, Jennifer. I'm real happy. The data that's coming out is really good, and it's really good across the board. Death is a tailing indicator. That's why we are still seeing these deaths very, very high. 4,500 round math Americans still on ventilators tonight. Once you go on a ventilator, your odds are very, very poor, which is sad, but everything is in the right trajectory. The big question that we're going to see is going to come here end of March into April. Did Super Bowl trigger some issues? And how much is the vaccine impacting? And if they are right about the UK version becoming the dominant version, how much impact is that going to have? If the UK version becomes the dominant version because the South African version has also appeared here, this country has missed a bullet that the UK version is more virulent and able to spread faster than the South African one. Because the South African one's, in my opinion, is the scary one. Goes after younger people. Vaccines aren't super effective on it. The AstraZeneca one, when I say it doesn't work, it's under 50%, which from a clinical standpoint means it doesn't work. And it doesn't really respond to a lot of the therapies that are available.
Well,
so
the thing we have coming up too is the potential fallout from spring break, right?
Yes, that's the other one. So we'll have to see. All right, our next story number 4 is closer to home right here in Washington State. The entire state has moved to phase 2 reopening. That means restaurants and bars can reopen at 25% capacity, along with gyms, fitness centers, yoga studios, bowling alleys, and movie theaters. The first COVID death in Washington State was February 13th, 2020. I know some people are going, no, it wasn't. It was a 26 or 20. It was discovered after the fact, but attribution on the first death, so it was 1 year, 2 days ago. In the year that has passed, Washington State has struggled with moving targets on balancing both public health and state commerce.
Oh, boy. How do you feel about this reopening, David?
Well, I think I expressed that kind of in the first story, where there's more and more evidence that this isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
It all depends. The problem, ironic cough. The problem is, as I see it, if people follow the rules on paper, this should work.
Yes.
The problem that you run into is there are restaurants and bars and others are just, hey, come on in. And that's the problem. So, and now that things are open, enforcement is going to be a bigger challenge overall. I know, for instance, grocery stores still supposed to be at 25%. And we shared pictures on our Twitter, weeks ago when I was in a Trader Joe's. There was no way that place was at 25%. It was like walking in on the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's face it, people in bars, when you've had enough drinks, you don't make good choices. I don't know. I just feel like, sure, in theory, it's a good idea, but getting people to adhere to these capacities is a whole other ballgame. And I don't even know what we do to get past this anymore. But I'm kind of like in the same kind of train of thought as you. Is that this doesn't look to be going anywhere. So how do we figure out how to live with this?
How to live with it in a formula that isn't casualties. A
Yeah.
certain number of casualties are acceptable. And when I say a certain number of casualties, I'm not saying get it down to zero, but 100,000 Americans dying a year
Yeah.
should not be 100,000 Americans dying a month, not a year, a month. That's what we had in January,
Yeah.
just shy of 100,000. That is not acceptable casualties.
Yeah.
Hey, mods and admins, it's time to let Jennifer and I know what's the winning story. You probably got like a minute or two to go ahead and get those votes in. And don't forget to spam those hearts. It lets our mods and admins know you love the great work that they're doing. And the other thing it does is it messes with the algorithm and gets us more eyeballs. And we like eyeballs. Jennifer, take it away. Story number 5.
Okay, so for story number 5, we have a bipartisan group of governors that have signed a letter submitted to President Joe Biden asking for the administration to apply better transparency for vaccine rollout and the number of doses states can expect. The Trump administration lost 20 million vaccine doses, had no national stockpile, and apparently no plan. The Biden administration has reported they now have secured enough doses for the entire U.S. population, which would be about 660 million total. As the latest direct pharmacy and direct community health center programs roll out, the governors asked the administration in Monday's letter to change the way by which the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reports vaccine distribution and administration to people, which they said currently creates, quote, unnecessary confusion. The governor said that the NGA wants the CDC to distinguish how much vaccine is being sent to states for them to administer and how much is being dispersed to people in each state through the direct federal programs. To complicate things, of course, 5 U.S. states are suffering major power outages, which will likely destroy tens of thousands of doses.
Yeah, there is. I purposely avoided the Texas story because people are, we're going to do the Texas story. I'm like, no, we're not going to do the Texas story. We might do the Texas story on Thursday. I'll just totally geek out and it'll become a 3-hour show. The second thing is there is a real humanitarian crisis that I really don't think is getting the coverage that it deserves. That is going on in not just Texas, but it is expanding across different states. The impact of the snowstorm, ice storm, wind, and unbelievable cold temperatures that they are having there is literally collapsing the electrical grid. And when I say collapsing the electrical grid, I don't mean windstorm here, power lines are down, or say if they had a Category 5 hurricane go through there. What's happening is, if you live here, let me explain it to you this way. If you live here in the Pacific Northwest, we've experienced this. We hear a loud boom somewhere. Lights go out for like a second, and then the lights come back on. And what happened is a transformer at a substation somewhere blew up. That's the loud boom. Because a branch hit it or a wire got pulled or whatever. But the electrical system, the grid went, okay, I got to reroute electricity so that way I can isolate the number of places that have lost power. That's why you lose the power, and then that's why it goes, and you get to more power. What's happening in places in Texas, it is rerouting power as they're having these cascading failures to the point that the power lines are getting so overloaded, they are literally exploding. They are exploding like toaster elements. And in some cases, they have started fires because they are raining down when they hit the ground. And so the whole system is in collapse to the point that in Texas, there are almost over 4.5 million people as we talk tonight that have no electricity. And these are people, Jennifer, in houses, some of them that have no heat, literally have no heat because there is no reason to have heat in their houses. But part of those electrical failures is the Moderna vaccine requires these super heavy duty freezers to be stored at temperatures of like 80 below or 100 below zero. So there is no running out to put them in the snowbank and go, well, it's zero. That's good enough. Yeah. And with these power outages and Well, the people are, but they have backup generators and natural gas. There is such a demand for natural gas in Texas that the pressure in the gas lines are dropping off, that the pilot lights are going out. They're running out of natural gas because the system is under so much stress. And the worst part of all, Jennifer, is they got another ice storm coming up Tuesday night and Wednesday, just when they really don't need it. It's truly a humanitarian crisis. I am deeply concerned that we are going to be hearing some terrible, terrible stories by the end of the week there, of suffering and worse.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. The fact that they're running out of natural gas is just insane to me.
Not a religious person. I've said that many. I say I'm a terrible Jew, but if praying's your thing, or lighting a candle, or just send some good thoughts,
Yeah.
send some good thoughts out to the universe, to the state of people in the state of Texas. They're not all chuds. Matter of fact, remember that state actually it has nothing to do with politics at this point.
Hmm.
Natural disasters don't care if you're blue, red, insurrectionary anarchist, or you were in Washington, D.C. on the 6th wanting to burn the Capitol down. So put a thought out there to the universe for them. Put some money in your good karma bank account.